I want to talk about 2 different characters from Arcane. So this is going to be a long video. Get some popcorn and take a bathroom break now, ladies, gentlemen, and unknown figures in the back row. Are you good? Good, let's go. Silco and Ekko are 2 characters that do in fact shape most of the narrative in Arcane. We're going to start with Silco first. Silco is not, in fact, a playable character in the main League of Legends game. He was made for the purpose of the show and to help us get a feel for who and what we were dealing with in the show itself. Silco had a great idea to try and free Zaun to be an equal player in the world of Arcane. To have the lofty highborn snobs of Piltover recognize their less fortunate brethren as people too. Good planning, guy, but making your people drug addicts, murderers, and crime bosses is not the way to go about it. When the show starts, we see Silco as a badass who does not play games and is willing to kill anyone if it means getting what he wants to be done. For the record, Silco is not a big bruiser with a tear tattoo for every kill on his face. He's worse. Silco talks like he's in control, like everything is not only boring to him, but that anyone talking to him is a kid with a finger up their nose. He looks down on everyone and makes it clear from the start, if you aren't helping me, I'll find a way for you to help me. Silco has shown that he's cold and cruel, which for a 9-episode series is impressive. Someone told me this show took 6 years to make, and yeah, it shows. Silco was a great villain, and before you butt me about Jinx, chill your left tit, Dave, we'll get to Jinx next time. Silco having that one good deed under his belt does fuck all to make up for the fact that he has killed 100 or more people. Probably more. Silco is the driving force behind a lot of the problems in the lanes because, spoiler alert, he has been trying to play the long con to get his idea off the ground. The idea is that if he can make the higher-ups, Piltover, be scared of the lanes, then he could start making demands to ease their fear, which he has been causing. The plan works, by the by, but they want Jinx in exchange for the plan to work. He has a heart for the girl he raised, but again, this is not at all the cover-up that people keep trying to tell me it is. Silco was a man ready to burn the world if it meant getting what he wanted. He even outright shows us how much of a bastard he is. When the Underground Council meet, right, because they call him out, he goes with the plan to kill them, and he almost does. He gives them a big speech about it and shoves an oxygen mask to them to let them know, hey, if I hadn't brought enough for you fools, you'd be dead. So sit down and shut up because I don't want to hear your grievances anymore, is basically that entire scene in a nutshell. Like, Silco is such a cold-hearted man that he makes it a point, even when he has control of the lanes, to have everyone pay him because keeping them poor will keep them docile. That's a messed up way to try and help your own people. Keep them under your boot while you abuse them? Silco dies because of Jinx, but he raised her so his ideals become hers in a way. That's just how it goes, especially for people who, live in dire straits such as the lanes. She blows up a whole ass building after killing Silco, which, you know what, I'll save for the Jinx video, but we have so much to talk about there. Like, there is, oh man. There's a lot to deconstruct on Jinx, and I'm still writing that script, I'm so sorry. But Silco, for all of his talk about wanting to help his people, did a lot of harm to them. On the other hand, Ekko did help his people. Now, Ekko is a player, right? A character you can play in the League of Legends games, and since I don't play that game, my editor, who has and does, had to fill me in on his power and how it works. But let's run down who Ekko even is before we go into the power part of it. He's a prodigy from the rush streets of Zaun. Ekko manipulates time and twists any situation to his advantage. Using his own invention, the Z-Drive, he explores the branching possibilities of reality to craft the perfect moment. Though he revels in this freedom, when there's a threat to his friends, he'll do anything to defend them. To outsiders, Ekko seems to achieve the impossible the first time, every time. Ekko was a child born to hardworking parents who wanted to give him a life different from them. He was a genius inventor and worked as an assistant in Zaun. He was best friends with Powder, who later became Jinx, and was inspired by Vi, Powder/Jinx's older sister, who has an entirely separate video all of her own. We'll get there. As a worker in the pawn shop, he finds out information that leads, well, the rest of the crew, right? Vi, Powder, Milo, and the rest, to episode 1, basically. Ekko is basically a gifted, unrefined genius that tends to take on more than he could initially handle. He managed to create the Zero Drive and the Time Winder simply through trial and error, and as a result, splits the timeline to fuel his perfection. I have to stress that, right? This kid grew up with nothing. He grew up in what was basically the slums, and through his own imaginative genius, found a way to not only mess with time, but use it to his advantage. 10 out of 10. This was a great character, and I'm really glad that they put him in here, and it works. It works. It's good. Ekko mainly uses the Z Drive to undo his mistakes and find key points to exploit, such as taking down a Vigilant, the people that are like cyborgs but not in this world. I don't know how to say their name, I'm sorry. Despite being able to undo physical effects on his body, Ekko retains some residual effects over the rewind, including physical pain and mental fatigue. His cognitive age does not change over the course of rewinding, which is also a good way to explain that he has time powers, but just because he has time powers doesn't mean he's infinitely older because of it. He's still the same age. Good job, guys. You worked yourself out of a corner. Ekko's face paint and the Zero Drive are both shaped after an hourglass, an expression of his personality, as well as the symbol he adopted for himself. He displays the same, fashion sense that Jinx and Vi do, with Ekko's neck piece being identical to the Hextech bolts on Vi's gauntlets. Ekko's bat is actually a clock hand that he stole from a Piltover clock tower. And before you tell me, no, that sounds right, it is right because there's a Roman 12 at its base, which indicates, yeah, it's a clock hand. So yes, it is. Check it. I'm not wrong. Ekko believes and cares for Zon and its future despite not fully understanding the bigger picture of everything he wants to do. As evidenced by his joke, the Zero Drive sometimes functions unexpectedly, and it's the product of a makeshift Hextech powered by a shattered crystal of undocumented properties that might have something to do with why sometimes it's just a little wonky, and why sometimes it just really doesn't work. The Shattered Crystal is implied to be part of the one that Victor and Jace fought over in their biographies, which again, this might be more the game part of it than the show Arcane part of it. But, you know, it implies that the current Zero Drive isn't the first of anything, it's probably one of many, because I imagine using something that's been made through what I can only assume is spare parts and held together with duct tape and a dream, they break as often as they might be considering you're constantly fighting, which is as much of a segue into Ekko and the Jinx fight as I can get, so we're just gonna go with it. Ekko in the game has the power of time, meaning he leaves a version of himself in the past, goes and fights in the future, and if he loses, he can go back to the present that he left himself in. This is a neat trick and it adds to their fight. The child Jinx in Ekko is a memory, right? That's why it's colored differently. The play fights where all they did was just try to one-up each other, they weren't aiming to hurt. It was all play. They were play fighting. But Powder, who Jinx used to be, had been shown to be a great shot even at a young age. So Ekko, as a kid dodging her paintballs? No, she was missing on purpose because it was a game. She wanted her friend to have fun too. But she does end up hitting Ekko as a kid anyway because she wanted to win their game. Adult Ekko, the snippets we see of him in that fight, is going through time as he is remembering their old fights. So when Powder hits little Ekko, Jinx is killing adult Ekko. It's not a game anymore, but both of them still want to win. When the song ends and the fight happens in real time for us without the cool art and song, he knows how to dodge and where to hit because he's already been through this fight. He knows where her bullets are gonna go this time all the way through and how to get to her specifically because, yeah, he wants to fucking win. He doesn't care if he has to hit her, right? Adult Ekko, the snippets we see of him in that fight, is going through the memories of everything because it's still his friend. He knows it's his friend. He knows Jinx is Powder, and that's why it's a weird fight. Like, he is committed to the fact that, no, I've got to beat her, and he knows how to beat her now. But when he gets there, he stops because unlike Vi, who watched as she lost her sister, Ekko looked into the woman who had been messing up his plans and saw his friend, the same little girl with too much going on inside of her head, and still was nice to him. In one moment of weakness, he lets Jinx get one of her bombs off, because despite everything, he thought she was dead for a long time, because it's easier to imagine the friend that you had is dead instead of your friend grew up to be the psychopath who is trying to actively kill everyone and everything. Suddenly finding out that, no, Powder is alive somewhere inside of Jinx and, well, works for the man making everything worse, it probably killed him a little bit. But he made two people in his head. Powder, the girl who died, and Jinx, the wild card he was at war with. it would have been easier on him, because while Silco was running around making things worse, Ekko was making things better. Clean air and a nice place to live, no drugs and no gangs, just a little group of rebels trying to stick it to Silco. Ekko shows that, yeah, we're poor, but that doesn't mean we have to be thugs and murderers and drug addicts. We can be just as clean and progressive as the upper crust, as Piltover. Ekko changed a community where Silco all but destroyed it. Which is why I wanted to talk about these two, because it's a juxtaposition of the same goal but different ways to achieve it. Where Silco wanted to be the man on top of the pyramid and run everything, Ekko just wanted to make it better, because better doesn't happen in a generation. Better happens over the course of several generations. The first generation has to get the ball rolling, and all the generations that precede them have to keep it going to make sure it's just as good as when they had the idea to begin with. Which again, this is great character writing, and I'm really glad that we even have these characters, because it works. I feel like this should just be titled The Juxtaposition of Silco and Ekko. I don't know, I'll leave it to my editor. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about for this new Arcane video. I'll leave my socials down in the description, and thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week.